Hello everyone, we are very delighted to see you among us today. Now we will begin our third workshop about the complexity of product development and why Agile is becoming more relevant in our current business environment. The workshop will be hosted by Daria BAGINA, but before that, I would like to thank our sponsors and partners. At the end of this workshop, we will have a Q&A session. Daria, the stage is yours.
And here are just a few words against the partners and sponsors. There's just to show the slide for everyone.
Okay.
Welcome everyone. Thank you for coming to this workshop. I'm very excited for being here and being able to talk to you about complexity, to talk to you about Agile, because I'm really passionate about Agile. And I would like to share that passion with you and talk about why I believe Agile is becoming more relevant in current business environments, especially now with COVID and the new ways of work, how it really impacts our work. So what I did, I shared I've shared the link and I'll share it once again in the chat. And what you're seeing right now on the screen, whatever just happened, was not supposed to. What you're seeing right now on the screen is the whiteboard we'll be using for all of the exercises to create a collaborative environment with everyone. So join the link. You don't have to create an account. Just join, and you can join as a guest participant. A little bit about me. My name is Daria BAGINA, as you heard. I am a professional Scrum trainer with Scrum.org, and I'm also focusing a lot on helping Scrum Masters to be more successful, and so be more successful with bringing change and bringing Agile into organizations, and also an avid creator of different tools for Scrum Masters, especially regarding retrospectives. But today we won't be talking about the Scrum Masters specifically, or won't be talking about retrospectives or topics like that, but we'll be talking about Agile in general. So just a few notes, just a few technical notes for the beginning for all of you is I'm going to bring everyone to me who is right now on the board, and just quick tips on how to use Mural. And the main things that you might need is really just moving around the board. So you can just left click and drag to move around the board, or I will be showing you the slides and taking you along with me, or zooming in and zooming out, just using your mouse wheel. That's why you can see. If you need to see a little bit more, if you want to add a sticky note, it's right here. You won't need to add sticky notes specifically, but I'm just letting you know some key points of how to use Miro. Okay, so let's start, and let's start talking about complexity, and let's start talking about Agile. And I'll start this with talking about Ralph Stacy. Ralph Stacy, and this is the model that we'll be using that is named after him, the Stacy Complexity Matrix. And Ralph Stacy was an organizational theorist. And at some point, he was looking at what are the different factors that actually impact or create complexity in software development. More specifically, because it was new, it was coming into the businesses more and more. And when he was doing his research, he found out that there are certain things that obviously create complexity with software, because it was such a complex new product, and it was difficult for organizations to really know how to manage it more. And the three factors that he found that actually create that complexity were, first of all, well, customer demands, so customer needs, right? So customer needs, imagine when we're building software, what happens is that customers so often don't really know what they want, and with software especially, it is complex to really understand what customers really want and how to really solve for their needs and for their demands. And as we especially see right now is that customers often change what they really need. Right now, we see that even a regular store might need to have a website because that's how now customers actually interact with products, right? So customer needs evolve as we evolve, as the business and the market evolves. Then the other factor that was actually impacting complexity of software development was technology. So as you might know, obviously technology is evolving all the time. It creates more complexity because we often see new programming languages coming up, especially in software, right? That's we can see how this might impact complexity. Right? And at the same time, as we evolve the technology itself, so we need to adapt whatever the product we're building, and especially in software development, in order to meet those new technology needs, right? We want our products to work faster, our apps to be available not only just on a computer, but now it also needs to be mobile compatible. So all those things that we need to take into account, obviously that's also impact complexity, is technology. And the last thing that actually starts to impact complexity is people. How many people are involved, right? So it's not only how many people are involved in building, say, the software development product or any product really, but also how many customers we have. And with, well, right now, just because we have an opportunity to literally reach any business anywhere in the world through internet, through travel, because of those open borders, really, we are able to get more people, see people moving stuff. So let me lock some of this so that we don't move it around. There you go. People, first of all, our customers, we have much more customers who are actually involved, but also we have more people involved in building our products, right? As well as competition is getting more and more strict, I guess. There are more people involved in the competition. So when he was looking at that, defining those factors that impact complexity in software development, they actually not only impact complexity software development, but just product development itself, because in a way, every product now is a software product. What he found is their complexity increases, and not every product, not every industry, or not everything we do will be living in the same level of complexity, because we might have different businesses, different industries, that not all of those factors, customer needs, technology, and people, will be as complex depending on what we're doing. And so what he found is there are actually different levels of complexity, starting with the simple level, so where everything is really known and customer needs don't really change, technology stays the same, and not that many people might be involved. Then complicated, where we actually have maybe a little bit more complexity on the technology side, but customer needs stay the same, or in the same way, technology stays the same, but customer needs might be evolving. Then complex, where much less is actually known, where both customer needs are changing, technology is changing, and many more people actually are getting involved, right? So the complexity once again rises. And then if we go even next step, then the complexity is chaotic, right? So that kind of the rise of complexity. So if we look at it and try to build it all into a model, and this is what we will be working on with really today through the exercises with you. And here's a couple of things that we've noticed, right? So we talked about the 4 environments, right? We have simple, complicated, complex, and chaotic. So how do you actually put that on the graph? So we talked about that first of all, we have, well, technology as one of the factors that impacts complexity, right? So we put it here to say, well, this is the axis, technology. And if we try to really talk about the technology in terms of how it actually evolves, we can say, well, on this spectrum, it's far from certainty. We don't know how technology will evolve. And on the very beginning, when we say, well, we pretty much know what technology we're going to use. It can be also be solutions we need to use in our work and approach. There's not, so we can have a spectrum from something that is close to certainty in terms of technology solutions and approach, or far from certainty. And if here we say, well, here's our requirements, customer needs, and wants, we can say the same. So at the spectrum from close to agreement, we know what customers actually want, and that their needs and wants do not change. And then far from agreement, it changes, right? Customers' needs are evolving, so we don't really know what exactly they need, right? And then if we try to define, well, where are those different complexities? Well, obviously, when requirements are the same and technology doesn't really change, it's close to certainty, we're in the simple environment, right? So we are in this quadrant here, in the right in this center. And then if we say, well, requirements are actually changed, so customer needs might be changing. The technology, what we're using, the approach we're using never changes. We know exactly how to approach it, or it's pretty straightforward, but the customer needs change. Maybe each customer has a different need, or they require a different way of looking at their needs and meeting their needs. Then we're getting into complicated. And the same way, if we say, well, the customer needs are pretty much staying the same, we know exactly what is needed, but we might need to use a different approach depending on the situation. Well, in this case, we are also in complicated. As you can see, more is known than unknown, as we at least one of the axes in this diagram would be more known, whether it's customer needs and wants, or it's solutions and approaches that we take. Then we're in a complicated. And that's where it gets a little bit more complex, is when both of the axes are getting complex. So our solutions are changing. So technology is changing, but also customer requirements are evolving. And that's where we enter a complex world, right? That's where it's getting more really difficult to predict what's going to happen. It's really impossible, right, to predict what's going to happen. If we're looking at the situation with COVID, obviously, yes, no one predicted that. So that's where we're seeing that there's a lot of complexity in what we need to do, so customer needs and requirements, and technology. And let's not forget the last axis here that I see. This is people, right? This is where, starting here, where we can see that more people are actually getting involved in what we do, our customers and our competitors. Now, obviously, if we go next level of the complexity, we're getting to chaotic. Right. So we will be using this model and trying to really understand how do we use it to our advantages, try to understand where Agile really helps us, and why would we actually be going for Agile, right? So here, once again, just a quick view of this model for us. So what we're going to do is I have split you into teams, right? I have split you into 10 teams. Did I split it into 10? Yes, there you go. And I have prepared specific working spaces for every team for the next exercises, right? And just to help bring everyone to you, once I start the exercise, you will be sent to a room and you will see the number, your team number, right? And here you can find the working space for your team. So these are the links that can help you bring you back to the main team space here. And once you get into the team room, you can see, for example, if you're a team 1, you can quickly go to your team 1 working space. But let me look quickly at the actual exercise. So for now, we're going to be doing exercise 1. So once you get into your team room and open up the exercise 1, you'll see some cards there. And those cards are about different industries. So we have looked at this model: simple, complicated, complex, and chaotic. And what we're trying to understand, looking at these industries, looking at these cards there, have some examples: sandwich making, assembly line, marketing, accounting, software development. And we're trying to understand, where does this industry or this product actually lies in, right, on this complexity model. Now we're trying to understand, say, for example, sandwich making. You will be able to move those things in your groups. Please do not move them just yet. Thank you. So let's say we're taking the sandwich making, right? And we're trying to understand, well, the actual work that is required, is it living more in the simple environment, complicated, complex, or chaotic, right? And you can do that. That will be an opportunity for you to talk through this with your teams, and realign those items on the graph, right? Talk about the technology solutions and approaches that we're using, or customer expectations and requirements. Are they close to agreement? Are they changing? Same on technology side. Are we close to certainty of how to actually approach the situation, or is it far from certainty, right? So an example of sandwich making, obviously, in the example of sandwich making, obviously, looking at it, can we see whether this is something that is easy? Does it have complexity or not, right? So I'm going to give you 7 minutes in the groups, and I'm going to bring you back to the team space right here. So once you send in the groups, just look at the number of on the breakout room and use that team space for exercise number 1 for now, okay? So I have 7 minutes, and I'll put a timer right here for you to see how much time you have left. For now, so we did the first exercise, and I did mine here on my own. I know that some people are still following me, but I hope that you were able to look into your work with your group to do the same. So just looking at just quick debrief of what we have here, right? I put in some of the simple items right here, such as sandwich making or assembly line, where we can see that the task at hand is pretty straightforward. We can just follow the instructions, and we don't really need to be creative, right, with the instructions. As long as we follow the instructions, we should be able to achieve the result that we need. Then when we look at the complicated, we might need to have some of the experts helping us decide what is the right approach. For example, being an auto mechanic, when your customer comes in, while the technology in the car doesn't change. So as an auto mechanic, you know how the car works, so you do not need to relearn a new technology, but different customers will have different needs. So you will need to adjust how you approach the situation, or what actually you do based on your customers, right? So auto mechanic is a really good representation of some complicated environment, but it's not as complex as, say, software development or maybe engineering a new cell phone, where while we might have a pretty good idea of what we're trying to build, right? If we're building, say, an application, but we need to adjust to different technology that might be evolving during the time we're building something, and the same customer expectations, right? We might need to adjust those customer expectations because customers need a new functionality or new feature in whatever we're building, whether it's a cell phone or maybe a new application. And obviously the best representation of chaotic environment is, well, catastrophe management, because a lot of people are involved. A lot of things are changing constantly. We need to adapt, and that's why it's a very good representation. So if you had some other discussions as well, do keep those. If you put the notes somewhere else, I think it's more for the opportunity for you to talk about the discussions in the discussions and discuss those things. So let's look for the next exercise, and I'm going to give you the same time. What we're trying to really understand is characteristics, right? Now that we have examples of different industries or different tasks at hand in each of those environments, well, what does it actually, how is it represented? And we can see here some of the items that have different characteristics, and the question is here the same: where would you put them, right? And obviously you can use the items here. Simple is everything is known, complicated, more is known than unknown, complex, more is unknown than known, and chaotic, very little is known, as your guide in defining what those characteristics are in each of those environments, and use those examples as a guide for you to understand, well, in this environment, what can we observe? What can we see? Okay. I'm gonna give you once again the same amount of time to do the second exercise in the groups. And I hope that everybody will be sent into the rooms better this time, and that you'll have the full time to actually discuss it. Okay, so just take off the block in the middle and look at the green cards to distribute as well. So looking at some of the characteristics of different environments. So obviously when we talk about the simple, we have very clear cause and effect of what we're doing. So we know exactly that, say, in assembly line, if we put part A with part B, we're going to get part C, right? So that's clear cause and effect. We have fact-based with no alternative interpretation. We don't need to get creative and simple. It's very all straightforward. The right answer is self-evident and undisputed, while we, as well as well-established knowns. When we talk about complicated, we talk about things like expertise, right? As we talked about the mechanics, so experts don't know. That's not at all what I wanted to move. Experts have all the knowledge needed to make decisions. We have some alternative interpretation, so two auto mechanics might not be agreeing on the same how to approach a situation, for example. We still have more predictability than unpredictability. We still have more answers. We still understand what is happening, so it's easy to do. And kind of repeating patterns and consistent events, something that would be on the border between simple and complicated. While when we talk about complex, we have many competing ideas. Even experts don't know a priori what would work, right? Emergent answers.
If you can make the text bigger, I guess.
Yeah.
Those green cards are not very clear to see.
Okay. Yeah, no, I'm just looking at, everybody should be coming back right now. There's still a couple of seconds, so we'll just wait another second. For everyone to go back, just making sure that everybody's rejoining the meeting. Okay, so everybody should have rejoined the meeting. And once again, I redistributed some of them. And just to highlight the key elements here, they're obviously in simple because there's we're mostly close to agreement and close to certainty in terms of technology and customer expectations and needs. So a lot of the things that we see in simple is the fact that we have clear cause and effect of what we're doing. The right answer is self-evident and undisputed, well-established knowns, repeating patterns and consistent events. We know exactly what's going to happen if we do something, right? So simple, it's pretty straightforward. It's very easy to understand what the right approach is. And obviously, that's why it's very easy to just give out instructions and let people follow them. You don't need to really kind of check on them all the time, right? Because it's pretty straightforward, right? In complicated, that's where we start to talk about expertise. We talk about the experts, auto mechanic. It's an expert expertise that is helpful in defining what the right answer is, right? We might have some alternative interpretations, say two auto mechanics working on a car might have different idea of what is wrong with it, right? But there's still the number of different ideas pretty limited. So we still have more predictability than unpredictability. But when we talk about complex, yes.
Sorry, we have a question from Osama. He's asking us, are we going to delete the rest of the cards for the next exercise?
Are we going to delete? What do you mean?
Remove them. I think he means the yellow and the green cards. We remove them to work with the third exercise.
No, we can leave them.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, if you need more space, you can just put them on top of each other, but you can leave those cards. They're still useful. So you don't need to delete them. I hope it answered the question. I wasn't sure if I understood the question, but yeah, you can leave the cards.
You said okay, yeah.
Okay, cool. So complex, obviously, just to recap, experts at this point we might still have good experts, but they don't really know a priori what would work because we are in a complex environment. Customer needs are changing, technology is changing, so we need to use different approach. We have a lot of emergent answers, so a lot of new things coming up, many competing ideas, not just two experts not sure which part of the car they need to fix, but many, many different ideas because we don't really know what is going to happen. The relationships between cause and effect are pretty difficult to determine. Yes, we might know how something most likely will happen, but something might break, right? Especially when we're talking about technology, complex work we're doing. So it's difficult to understand. It's just kind of, I'll put it here, that more unpredictability, there's more unpredictability than predictability. So when we talk about chaotic, obviously catastrophe management, we have no time to ask for input. There's a lot of unknowables as we don't know what we don't know, right? And then no manageable patterns exist. So we can see a little bit of the characteristics. So the last exercise I have for you on those blue cards right here, when you open them up, well, here, what we're trying to understand is, well, in those environments, as a leader, how would you manage the situation, right? What would work? How can you manage the situation with most effectiveness in knowing what the situation is? Now that we know the characteristics of each of those environments, we can say, well, what would actually work best? Now, obviously, for example, command and control, very easy to put it in simple because, well, it's pretty straightforward, right? Command and control is a good representation of what would work in simple because we might just give out instructions and ask people to follow them because it is pretty straightforward when we are in a simple environment. So that's why command and control would work. So once again, I'm going to give you some time to do that. I'll give you just a little bit less time this time to look into that, and we'll come back and recap. Okay, hopefully you have. Everybody will be set. I'm going to bring you back to this slide for everyone to go to your respective team space for this exercise. And I'll see you in 5 minutes. Okay, so everybody should be back now. And once again, I'm distributing some of those notes here. I know someone was working off of this board, So I'll just let you finish that. So just to say, basically, we can see that when we are in simple or complicated, because we know everything, it's easy to use metrics. Oop, things just moved. That's okay. It's easy to use metrics and command and control to help basically the work to be, the goals to be achieved, while in complex, because lots of things are changing and even experts don't know what works, we need to encourage experiments. We need to help generate ideas, right? We need to have increased level of interaction as a leader instead of trying to control what is happening, because we can't really predict what is going to happen, how it's going to impact our work. And this is where really, if we're just kind of to say, this is where we would say the kind of the Agile really helps us, because when we're working with complex work, a lot of things are changing. And that's why all of those things we put on the blue notes is what really helps us be successful in a complex environment, rather than in simple and complicated. Just because we are in a complex environment, we can see those examples of industries that actually are complex. So if you're finding yourself looking at the same complexity, then that's why Agile would be a much better approach to use. I'd like to leave some time for questions.
Yeah, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask them in the chat, and Daria will respond.
Wait one quick minute.
Sorry, may I intervene here? I have a question.
Yeah,
please. So we are looking here to the diagram, and the question is how to make. We are talking about making sense to every action in our companies, and to move to be agile more and more. But what I cannot understand is, and want ready to explain me how to keep control of your staff and your team, and we are offering on the same time this power, this agility to this team. So in sometimes the team cannot understand this and say that this is a power that is deserved, and they will work to ask more and more of power. I think, do you get my idea, the point that I asking about?
I'll try to answer based on what I understand. Basically, I know that we, I guess more on the management position, it is, you can't really keep control in this situation if you're if your product is complex, if your environment is complex, because there's so many factors that impact your work. You might have an illusion of having control, or you might have an illusion of having predictability, but it's like those blue cards are really here to help you, instead of trying to gain control, but rather than rely on your people working for you to create, basically to achieve the goals, right? Rather than trying to keep that control, because when there's so many unknowns, when there's so many things changing, you can't really have that control. Like, you can't really predict what's going to happen and how it's going to impact your work. But like, look for those, look at those kind of blue items to help you guide that. But it's a big topic.
Yeah.
I think we have the time for one more question. Someone says still didn't understand the difference between complex and complexity. Thank you.
I guess you wanted to say complex and complicated. I assume that because
you should make I think that it's also very important that we make limit for the complicated situation to the complex situation in a way that we will I mean to control the risk, to mean that we can manage this risk that the situation will be chaotic than complex. So I think that it's better that we stop on a complex situation to move to the chaotic.
Yes, yeah, we definitely don't want to end up in chaotic. Yes. Yeah. I want to answer the question. I just looking at the time, so let me answer the question about complex and complicated. Just because it was asked there. Sorry to cut you off. I'm just looking at the time. So for complex, basically the easiest way to really understand the difference is if you say when complicated, one of the factors, whether it's customer expectations or requirements or the technology solution, stays more put. I guess it's closer to agreements, closer to certainty, where in complex, both of technology solutions approach and customer expectations or requirements are changing and evolving, both of them basically. And you add on top of that, people involved, right? Customers, competition, and people working on the product. So that's why it's complex and it's not complicated.
Thank you, Daria. I'm going to launch a small poll now, so please respond to the poll. As for now, I think we have reached the end of our workshop. I would like to thank Daria for her presentation and all the partners and sponsors, and a big thank you for all the participants.